Are you tired of getting stuck in those endless revision cycles? All that refactoring? Well, there's a simple practice that can totally transform your workflow. And here's the thing, it's not just for designers. Today, we're going to talk about wireframing and why it's a developer's secret weapon.
So, let me ask you something. You know that feeling, right? You're deep into a project, you've written some beautiful code, and then you get that piece of feedback that requires a massive rewrite. You end up spending days, maybe even weeks, refactoring everything, just because there was a misunderstanding about how a feature was supposed to work. It is, without a doubt, one of the most frustrating parts of being a developer.
But what if I told you the problem isn't actually your code? It's not your logic, it's not the framework you chose. The real problem is you started building without a clear blueprint. And that is exactly what we're going to fix. Okay, let's get right into it. The best way to think about wireframing is as the blueprint for your code. It's the plan you lay out before you even think about pouring the concrete. So, what is a wireframe, really? Well, think of it as the absolute bare-bones skeleton of your app. We're not talking about pretty colors, fancy fonts, or any of that design stuff. No, we're talking about the raw structure. Where do the buttons go? How does a user get from point A to point B? And what does this thing actually do? This analogy just says it all, doesn't it? You would never, ever hire a construction crew, point to a plot of land and say, all right, just start building, without a detailed blueprint. So, why do we as developers so often jump into writing complex code with, well, pretty much no plan at all? The stakes are just as high.
And this is where the real magic happens. It's all about focus. By stripping away all the visual distractions, the colors, the images, the fonts, wireframes force everyone involved to agree on the one thing that truly matters, how the product actually works. It gets you, your client, and your project manager all on the exact same page.
So we know what it is, but let's talk about why it's so important. Let's look at the business case here and why this planning phase is pretty much a non-negotiable part of modern development. The benefits are just huge, and they directly impact your day-to-day work. Wireframes create a shared visual language for everybody, from product managers to back-end engineers. That means you get clearer communication and you can iterate way faster. You get everyone aligned before a single line of code is written, which ultimately leads to a better user experience and, this is the big one, way less time spent on those soul-crushing, costly rewrites. Now, check this out. This chart right here visualizes that cost, and it's pretty staggering. Look at that tiny bar on the left. Fixing a problem during the design or wireframing phase, it's cheap. It's nothing. But that exact same problem, if you only find it after the product is launched, the cost to fix it explodes. It's exponentially higher. And this isn't just an opinion. This is a well-known reality in our industry. And here's the bottom line. Making a change in a wireframe is just dragging a box around. It literally takes minutes. But making that same change in a fully coded application? Well, you know how it is. It can unravel a whole mess of dependencies and take days of frustrating work. Planning ahead saves you an incredible amount of time and headaches.
Okay, so you're on board, but what tools do you actually use to do this stuff? Let's take a look at the toolkit, from a simple piece of paper all the way to industry-standard software. You're really going to run into two main types of wireframes. Low fidelity, or lo-fi, is basically your quick and dirty sketch on a whiteboard or the back of a napkin. It's perfect for just getting ideas out. Then there's mid-fidelity, which is where you start adding more detail, defining UI elements and layouts in a digital tool. For most of us developers, this mid-fidelity stage is really the sweet spot.
And here are some of the best tools to get the job done. Right now, Figma is the undisputed king. Its real-time collaboration is just incredible. Balsamiq is awesome if you're just starting out because its whole sketchy look kind of forces you to stay low fidelity. Miro is a fantastic online whiteboard for remote brainstorming, and Sketch is still a total powerhouse if you're on a Mac.
So how do you actually weave this into your work? Let's walk through a super simple 5-step workflow that you can start using on your very next project. I promise it's not complicated.
The process is pretty straightforward. 1. Define the problem and what the user needs to do. 2. Just start sketching rough ideas, really lo-fi. 3, and this is probably the most important step, get feedback early and often. Don't go off and code in a cave. 4, use that feedback to refine your ideas into a more detailed, mid-fidelity wireframe. And finally, step 5, that wireframe becomes the official blueprint for the build phase.
Now, to make sure you don't trip up, here are a few common mistakes you'll want to avoid. The biggest one, of course, is just skipping this whole process. Other classic pitfalls are getting bogged down in design details way too early.
completely forgetting about how it'll look on mobile, not sharing your work with stakeholders, and treating the wireframe like it's the final finished product instead of a guide.
And hey, if you're working in a component-based framework like React or Vue or Svelte, oh man, wireframing is a total game changer. You can literally look at your wireframe and map it directly to your component tree. That box, that's your navbar. This section, that's your card grid. That pop-up, that's your modal. This process forces you to think about your component hierarchy, your props, and your state management before you even open up VS Code.
So as we wrap this up, just think about your next project. It's there, waiting for you to build it. Before you open your terminal, before you run Create React App or whatever it is you do, just ask yourself this: what's my blueprint going to look like? Because trust me, having one is going to make all the difference.